Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is Reverend Richard. I'm the Graduate Engagement Officer at One Spirit Learning Alliance, and I am here with Reverend Aziza, who was a graduate of the class of 2003, and she is joining me all the way from the faraway land of Moldova. Aziza, thank you for joining me.
Hi, bună ziua.
Hey, well, and I just want to let everybody know in advance that the internet connection from Moldova can be a little bit spotty, so please bear with us if we have a little technical wrinkle. But we don't expect it, but it could happen. So if it does,
Yeah.
we'll just keep going. So again, Aziza, thank you so much. I know it's very late where you are right now, so thank you for taking time to speak to me outside your normal schedule. I really, really appreciate that. So I'm going to jump right in with the first question I like to ask everyone, and that is, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me a little bit about what brought you to One Spirit?
It was a little spotty, but I think that yeah, I hear you.
Yes.
You were saying introduce myself and tell
Yeah, and
me about my
tell us a
involvement with
little
One
bit
Spirit.
about yourself and what brought you to One Spirit.
Okay. So my name is Reverend Aziza. I am from Harlem, New York. I'm a proud Harlemite. And I think like all of us, God brought us to One Spirit, and it was kind of reaffirmed with the manifestation of God in other people. It was a week of people saying to me, there's this seminary called One Spirit. We think you should go. Out of nowhere, people just kept saying it. And I was like, well, I need to look into this One Spirit, because it just kept coming up in different people that I know and different circles that I was in. And I had always had kind of an abundance and diverse spiritual practices. So interfaith ministry was really just already the path that I was on. I just didn't know the narrative. And One Spirit really gave me the narrative of the practices I was already doing.
Well,
Did I come through?
yeah, absolutely. I can hear you and I can see you perfectly. So thank you for that. So tell me a little bit about your time at One Spirit and what was the most important thing that you learned or experienced while you were in the program there?
I was at One Spirit when they were making their transition. So I was in that first class of One Spirit, which was a very just auspicious year. I think for everyone to be the first class of this kind of very innovative school and under the direction of Diane, we all knew that we were entering something that was going to be really big and profound. And I was just excited to be a part of it. I think what I remember the most and what had the most impact on me was Diane always saying the hidden curriculum. We knew the curriculum of what we were doing and studying in the 2 years we were there, but she always spoke about the hidden curriculum, what that curriculum is outside of studying and in people and how it's going to manifest. And for me, things started to manifest really, really quickly. I had already had a school and program in Harlem called Deaf Dance Jam, where I worked with differently able people, artists through dance. But it was also a very social component of my school and my company, where we did a lot of spiritual work with these young people who had a different ability. Many of them were deaf, some were autistic, some had physical different abilities, but developed. And Diane was really a great source of information, but also we had a rites of passage program where we had mentors. And for Diane to come up to Harlem and be a mentor with these young children in Harlem, that was just very impactful for me, because I was also struggling at that point with discrimination and racism and elitism and what that narrative was for myself as a woman of color, and how I was able to find peace in that. And Diane really helped me to create my narrative around that.
That sounds like that must have been a really amazing experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that was for you and Diane's influence?
Sure. I want to be very blatant. It was
Please do.
very, very blatant. It was a time of my first year in One Spirit where the elitism and other people's narrative of people who are Caucasian sometimes don't understand and have an awareness of when they are interacting with people of color. And sometimes that creates anger. When you're in a class where there are not many people of color, we're all on the spiritual path. You shouldn't assume, but you assume people are a little more evolved than in their path, but they're human, and we're all human, and we're all trying to figure stuff out. And so there was a period that I was just really angry because I'm in the spiritual place, and I think that people are a little more evolved, but the narrative is still the same narrative, one of discrimination and injustice. And Diane would always speak with me, regardless of where I was, from a space of love, even if I was still angry, or if she was very consistent and speak from a space of love. And so that helped to shift my narrative of, regardless of where people are at in their development, you stay in a place of love. And Diane was really, really impactful for me in that she was the first person, not the first person, but gave me the narrative of deal with humans first and then deal with the other stuff that they have on top of it. So she really helped to shift my narrative.
Well, that's very, very wise. And that sounds like it must have been a very impactful experience. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
I know that you have a really interesting ministry that's going on right now as well. And I'm really, really excited to have you tell our viewers a little bit about what you've done since you've been at One Spirit and where you are now. So if you could give us a little bit of information about that, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Well, when I was in One Spirit, like I told you, I had a nonprofit dance school, deaf dance jam that was very successful. I had international programs in Greece and Italy and Turkey, and had this nonprofit for 25 years. And it came to a point for me that, you know what, there's something complete about this. And I was constantly, I felt, in trying to stay in this nonprofit world and staying in the arts world, I was constantly checking my moral compass. And I was not really happy with the way that I felt I had to exist in the nonprofit world, the dance world, the New York world. And I think One Spirit gave me the tools to really go, look at your moral compass, look at your moral compass. And I was just struggling with that. Though I was really happy with the work I was doing in New York and internationally, I was, really fulfilled, but there was something that I was like, okay, this part of my service I think is complete. And I just kept praying and say, God, I want you to use me and use all of me. And so I think people looked at me like, wow, I made this shift in my life at 52 years old. And I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And when I said it out loud, I myself was like, yes, that's it. That's what God is telling me to do. And why? I felt that I had really served in the capacity that I knew how to serve. And I did that in many different circles, the deaf circle, physically, mentally, differently able. I did foster care work. I'm doing work internationally as a cultural ambassador. So those are the way I knew to serve. I then said, God, how do you want me to serve totally? How can you use me totally to serve? And I knew that I could do that with the Peace Corps, even though I was doing human development internationally. But when you have administrative stuff you're responsible for, grant writing, reports, there's a part of you that's still totally removed spiritually. And I wanted to be used like every core of my being. And I felt that the Peace Corps would give me the foundation for me just to serve, to totally serve. Maybe I thought it was a little romantic as I was first saying it, like, am I romanticizing? Is this going to really happen? Is it going to be everything that I thought it would be or not? And It was the best decision of my life. I am here in Moldova. I didn't know where Moldova was or existed like most people do. Like you asked me, where's Moldova?
I didn't know
When I got it, and they told me Moldova, I was like, okay, I don't know where it is. Let me look it up. I had a friend of mine tell me where it was. And all I kept saying was, I asked you, God, to use me totally. And the interesting thing was, when I was doing my application for the Peace Corps, because it is very competitive, I didn't know that, they had just changed the process where before you could not ask where you wanted to go, what country you wanted to serve in. It was just you put in your application, they decided. Literally the week I put in my application, they called me, it was like, well, do your application over. We're changing the system where you can now ask where you want to go to. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. But I also said, God, I want you to use me. So I didn't want to ask where I wanted to go. I was like, if I'm going to go serve, I just want to go serve where I'm needed. So I put in my application and I put wherever you want to send me. I didn't put down a place that I wanted to go to. And they selected Moldova. And I'm doing community development here. That's part of my ministry. I think that I call it international human development is the second stage of my ministry now.
Well, that's amazing. That is a really, really inspirational story, that you prayed to God and you just took the lead, you took the direction where you were sent. Tell me a little bit about what it's been like serving in Moldova now that you've made this incredibly brave leap of faith and been led where you are without question, and that you have embraced this. What is your life like now?
When I first arrived to Moldova, and they prepare you and they tell you, but you're still not prepared until you get here. And they tell you everything, you will, sorry if I'm so graphic, be, squatting in a hole to go to the bathroom, outhouses, you might have a shower or not. You might have electricity or not. Your housing could be maybe a bed. It's a degree here in Moldova, from very kind of third world living to very modern living. And so you have no idea where you're going to land. We have 3 months of what you call PST training, and then you go to your normal site. My PST training was in a small village, so that was definitely more of a third world experience, but I actually loved it. There was nothing about it that I could not stretch myself to do. Of course, if you're not used to using an outhouse, you have to go, okay, let me figure this out. I had a host mother. She was a grandmother, just her widow, and she lived off the land. So if we didn't work the garden, we didn't eat. So, that's how you want some potatoes, you go get them from the garden. So that was my first 3 months. It was really kind of third world living, but I was so thankful for that experience. And then now my main site is in a village called Kaoshen. And for them, this is a huge city, Kaoshen. So my village was 3,000 people, and my site that I'm at now is 25,000 people. So for them, that's huge. That's like New York City. And so where I'm at now, it would be considered to the other volunteers like being in New York City, because I have an indoor toilet and I have a shower. Yeah, I have a shower. I have an apartment. But the work that I do, you kind of are reminded daily that you're in a third world country. So I do community development. I work in a library. So it's a beautiful facility. Beautiful library. It has a dance studio, has a theater, has no running water. So those are things that bring you back to reality of, you have this facility, but it's not operating. It's not operating in some ways healthy. It's not operating in some way at the best capacity that it can be. And then you also have to do development of mindsets of, that's a priority. Running water is a priority. You have to develop those mindsets in the people and the government and the people that have power. And that's what I had to learn. Like, wow, I'm really going to be doing human development. Where I thought I was just going to be coming and building buildings. It's like, no, it's about human development here. I'm saying they need the resources here to grow. And not only do they need it, they deserve these resources. And so that's what I've really been working hard on, and dealing kind of with the council people of, we have this building, but we have to be able to turn the water on. And so let's look at this budget and maybe not buy flowers, because things looking pretty are very important here, to look pretty, but not always resourceful or practical. So I have to say, if we're going to service 200 children, they need to be able to wash their hands, or girls need to be able to go to the bathroom. We need a bathroom facility, because if the girls can't go to the bathroom, they can't go to school. So it's kind of all these checkpoints, but everything takes time. And so what I've had to learn is to be patient and move at their pace, but also make the change that I can do.
That sounds like you're doing really, really amazing work there, and really, really important work as well. How did your experience at One Spirit, how has that impacted the work that you're doing today? How has that influenced the way you're interacting with the responsibilities and the challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis there in Moldova?
Moldova is a very religious country, Orthodox Catholic, but there are smaller sects that are developing spiritually. There's a Baptist community, there's a Christian community, there's a Jehovah's Witness community, and there's also an African community. And they're very, very segregated, and almost to their own fault at sometimes, because it's literally, they could be right next to each other and not even talk. So just my interfaith background of being able to find the commonality of God, and just to have that conversation is really, really huge. But I think the biggest thing that I come away from my practices at One Spirit is fellowship, and bringing fellowship to the community. One, for them to understand when they're having fellowship, they don't realize it. You know, for them, it's like everything is work, work, work. And I'm like, well, when we work, let's sit down and have some tea. And in those moments of fellowship, we can have discussions about hygiene and domestic violence, which is big here also, and young girls being educated after the age of 15. And so it's the fellowship that I'm really developing. I'm developing fellowship through, I'm doing dance classes for, they call them pensionaras, which are the grandmothers. And usually once you're a pensioner, you stay in your garden, you stay in your house, and that's it. You don't come outside of that. So to get them to come out and come to the library and do exercise is huge. And then for them to have a conversation, and then now to have a conversation and go, well, you know, your vote counts. You should vote, because they feel like after you're a pensioner, you shouldn't be involved in any of those things. So it's really finding the ways and the paths of how I can make change, and that is happening through the fellowships that I'm creating with the pensioners, with the young people. We have teenagers who Romanian, and there's a Russian population, but they don't integrate. They don't know why they don't integrate. It's just because of the conflict that has happened, I guess, between the government, but they don't have the opportunity to integrate. So I'm simple things like, you know, creating a Halloween party and invite the Russian school and the Romanian school. And this is the first time that they've integrated in this village. And nothing happened. And for people to go, oh, okay, it's okay. It's simple things like that, but huge and impactful here.
You know, Aziza, I mean, it sounds like you're really having a huge impact on a lot of people's lives in a lot of different ways. And I have to tell you, your story is really, really inspirational. I think you've been incredibly brave, and it's just really inspirational to hear you talk about the way you've embraced this, and the the incredible way that you've been able to influence so many people in so many diverse ways. That's really, really wonderful. And
Thank you.
just, do you have anything else that you would like to share with the One Spirit graduate community? We're almost out of time. Some closing thoughts about your time and your experience.
Yes, I think like we talked a little earlier, sometimes you're not aware of what your path is going to be. You never picture yourself doing something you're doing now, like these incredible broadcasts you're doing. You had no idea that this would be part of your ministry. I really had no idea that the Peace Corps would be part of my ministry. You think, I'm 50 and older, I'm a woman of color, I'm almost about to retire. Why would I go on to start a second career and do something like this in the Peace Corps, where it's mainly younger people? But the impact that you can make if you make the decision to do it is absolutely incredible. And we talk a lot about stretching in One Spirit. The level of stretching that you do in the Peace Corps is amazing, but also the motto of the Peace Corps is it's the toughest job you'll ever love. And so it really is tough, but like you said, you immediately see the impact that you can make. You immediately receive your ministry right in front of you in a very, very tangible way. And I think it's for people who are not clear of what their ministry is or what they think it should look like. When you enter the Peace Corps, your ministry tells you what it looks like. It tells you in a very clear way. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. And Aziza, thank you again. I know it was very difficult for you to be here this evening and to talk to us, but I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing in the world. And thank you for sharing your experience with the graduates at One Spirit. It's truly inspirational. And to all of our graduates that are listening, there are going to be links in the newsletter. So if you'd like to reach out to Aziza, if you have any questions for her, you can reach out to her directly. And there will also be links to the Peace Corps. So if you have any questions about the Peace Corps, you can look at that as well. Aziza, thank you so very much. And I really, really, really want to tell you your story has been really inspirational. And I want to wish you every success going forward.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. God bless.